Okay, let's dive into one of the most wonderfully bizarre, absolutely brilliant novels ever written, Virginia Woolf's Orlando. Now, she subtitled it, and this is key, a biography. And you have to wonder, was she being a little ironic? I think so. Because as you're about to see, this is a biography that just completely shatters every single rule in the book. I mean, right from the get-go, Woolf throws this totally impossible puzzle at us. Our main character, Orlando, is born way back in the 16th century, and they live all the way to the 20th without really aging. So you've got to ask, how on earth can you call that a biography? And, just in case living for 300 years wasn't weird enough for you, there's more. Halfway through the book, Orlando, who's been a man this whole time, just wakes up one morning as a woman. Yeah, no magic, no explanation, it just happens. So clearly, we're not dealing with your average life story here. So to really get what's going on in Orlando, we have to basically toss out the old rulebook for storytelling. We've got to look at the new tools, the new techniques Woolf came up with to tell a story that's about so much more than just facts and dates. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. All right, first things first, let's talk about the genre itself. See, Woolf isn't just writing some fantasy story. No, she's taking a direct shot at the whole idea of what a biography is supposed to be, especially those super stuffy, very proper, and kind of boring biographies from the Victorian era that she was so clearly rebelling against. See, she just wasn't interested in the usual laundry list of events, birth, marriage, death, accomplishments. For Woolf, a person's real life, their true identity, that wasn't found in their public record. It was in their inner world. And Orlando? Well, Orlando was her grand, amazing experiment to prove that very point. So that begs the question, right? How do you actually write about someone's inner world? Well, Woolf's first big tool is a technique you've probably heard of. But trust me, the way she uses it is completely revolutionary. And that technique is called stream of consciousness. Now, instead of giving us a nice, neat, logical plot, this style tries to copy how our minds actually work. All those messy, random, associative jumps from one thought to the next. For Virginia Woolf, capturing that psychological reality was way more important than just describing what was happening on the outside. And what's incredible is how she applies this. It's not just for a single moment. She stretches it across centuries. So Orlando can be sitting down for tea in the 1800s, and suddenly a memory from the 1600s will just pop into their head crystal clear. Because in Woolf's view, our minds don't really do linear time, right? The past and the present are always mixing together. And that was the reality she was trying to get on the page. Okay, so Woolf's second major tool, this one wasn't just another writing technique. It was a whole new philosophy, a new way of thinking about how to write a life story. And it actually became known as the new biography. And when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day. Think about those traditional Victorian biographies. They were so stiff, so serious, just obsessed with getting every single fact right. Woolf's new biography basically just tossed all of that out the window. It put psychological truth above factual accuracy, and it favored a playful, interpretive style instead of just dryly listing events. The whole point was to capture the spirit of a person's life, not just their list of stats. And I mean, here it is straight from Woolf herself. This one quote really gets to the heart of everything. It's the core philosophy behind Orlando and her whole idea of the new biography. She truly believed that sometimes you need to use imagination, even fiction, to get at a much deeper truth. A truth that a simple list of facts could never, ever touch. So for Woolf, the real subject of any biography worth reading wasn't the person. It was their consciousness. The story of their thoughts, their feelings, their creative sparks, that was the real story. That's the part of us that actually endures, long after a list of dates and achievements fades away. And this, of course, brings us to what is probably the most famous and definitely the most radical part of the entire novel. Its exploration of gender. So the big question is, how does Orlando's consciousness, their inner self, handle this sudden switch from man to woman? And here's the absolutely crucial part. Orlando's body changes, but their mind, their memories, their personality, their essential self, that doesn't change one bit. They are still fundamentally Orlando. And this is what allows Woolf to set up this fascinating thought experiment. If your inner self doesn't change, then what is gender, really? Well, for Woolf, the answer wasn't inside us, in our biology. It was outside, in society. And she sums it up with this amazing line. Clothes change our view of the world and the world's view of us. In other words, she's saying that gender is a kind of performance, one that's shaped by all the social expectations that get attached to the clothes we wear. And just like that, the world completely changes for Orlando. Even though they're the exact same person on the inside, suddenly as a woman, Orlando can't own her own property without a husband. Her intelligence gets questioned, her freedom is suddenly limited, and of course, there's all this pressure to get married. What Woolf is showing us so brilliantly is that these aren't natural differences at all. They're just rules. They're restrictions that society imposes. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. We've got these really revolutionary ideas, right? Focusing on the inner mind, putting psychological truth first, and seeing gender as a kind of social performance. So what does it all add up to? What's the bigger picture here? Well, here's the beautiful logic of the novel. First, Woolf uses stream of consciousness, which lets us get right inside Orlando's head. Second, she uses her idea of the new biography to make the case that this inner life is what really matters, more than any external facts. And when you put those two tools together, the result is this incredible story where identity isn't fixed at all. It's fluid, it's changing, it's not tied down by time or by gender. And that, right there, is the big takeaway, the final reveal. Orlando isn't the biography of a man or a woman or any single physical person. It's the biography of a mind. It's about a creative, timeless consciousness that flows through centuries, experiencing life from all these different angles. The real hero of this story is the self that exists underneath all the labels. And that leaves us with a really powerful question, one that's just as relevant today as it was when she wrote it nearly a century ago. By throwing out all the old rules, Woolf basically forces us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, if you strip away the social labels, the historical facts, even your physical body, what's left? What is the absolute core of who you really are?